Hey everybody, you got Benjamin Diggles here, co-founder of Constellation Network and head of strategy. It's been a while since I've communicated to the community just because I've been so heads down. And as those that know me know, I like to drop in every once in a while when something's on my mind. This article was sent to me last week, May 5th, from Eric Bethel, one of our strategic advisors, the ex of the World Bank, ex-director of the World Bank. And it really struck a chord with me. I've been thinking about it all weekend. I've sent it to so many of my military contacts, and it is in line with what I've been pushing for Iron Spider for the last 6+ years. For those that don't know, Constellation is a blockchain company. We're based here in America, and we've been heavily involved in three-letter agencies, namely the DoD, working on blockchain efforts. And me as a person, I've had a front row seat and have visibility to some of the inner workings of what's going on with our federal government, what's going on with the geopolitical landscape when it comes to blockchain efforts and deployments and adoption. And so this one is really important to me that I wanted to go through here. I'm not going to read everything, but I am going to read a lot. So hopefully that doesn't drive you nuts. If so, transcribe it, read it at your own time, or just read the article. China's blockchain playbook, infrastructure influence, and the new digital order. The U.S.-China strategic divide on blockchain. In the United States, blockchain remains largely synonymous with cryptocurrency. Policy debates often circle around investor protections, regulatory turf wars, and headlines about meme coins and high-profile collapses that obscure the technology's potential. Massive. China, however, is charting a very different course. Despite decisively banning cryptocurrencies in 2021, Beijing is making massive state-backed investments in blockchain technology, positioning it as a central pillar of its national digital and geopolitical strategy. This divergence is beginning to register in Washington, with Representative Raja, not going to try his last name, recently warning that China's methodical push to dominate blockchain's underlying infrastructure could grant the CCP unprecedented influence globally. His observation underscores a broader dynamic. While the United States and China compete intensely over AI and semiconductors, Beijing is making early systematic gains in foundational blockchain infrastructure, a domain where U.S. engagements remain comparatively massively limited. This widening gap risks creating a global digital architecture increasingly shaped by Chinese standards, governance models, and strategic interests. We are almost allergic to blockchain in this country, and I'm going to dig in a little bit why I think that is the case based off of my experiences. I'm not going to read this section that explains what blockchain is. Everybody on this call probably has a good idea. If not, you can do your own research. Explains that beyond just logistics and saving, transaction times and operational costs, it can be used for a whole bunch of other stuff. Much like I've said in the past, that crypto is to blockchain what email is to the internet. It is a first expression, but imagine if all the internet was email. We're missing out on 99% of its value, even though I think email is a little bit more important than 1%. But let's keep going. China's national blockchain strategy and mobilization. Blockchain offers a fundamentally new way to operate online, guaranteeing trust, exchanging value, and coordinating complex systems without relying on traditional central platforms. Yet while the West continues to debate on how to regulate this technology, China is already strategically building with it. In 2019, President Xi delivered a speech urging the nation to seize the opportunities presented by this technology. This was from the top down. This was a very smart, vertically aligned establishment and government that said, let's get moving. He framed blockchain as a crucial for the next round of technological innovation and industrial transformation, declaring China's intent to become the global rule maker. This positions blockchain as a key front in China's broader quest to shape global technology governance. This is big, guys. The ship has sailed. Following these high-level directives, China mobilized its system with characteristics coordination. Blockchain was embedded in both 13th and 14th five-year plans, elevating it to a national infrastructure priority. Cementing this strategy, the government this past January unveiled an ambitious $54 billion national blockchain roadmap detailing the funding commitments, performance targets, and institutional responsibilities necessary to accelerate deployment across the economy. This high-level policy translates directly into coordinated action. Central bodies like the Ministry of Science and Technology steer industrial strategy, while state-owned giants spanning telecommunications like China Mobile, finance like China's UnionPay, and energy, their state grid, are actively integrating blockchain into their core operational infrastructure. Meanwhile, China's tech titans, including Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei, are building out powerful blockchain platforms engineered for both government deployment and commercial application, ensuring alignment with national strategic objectives. This synchronized effort extends to human capital. Major universities have established specialized blockchain programs. The National Blockchain Technology Innovation Center in Beijing was tasked with training more than 500,000 blockchain professionals. Let that sink in. These are not meme coin projects. These are blockchain professionals. Local incentives drive further adoptions in cities like Shenzhen. Vocational blockchain certifications are tied to social benefits like residency eligibility. The picture emerging is one of systematic prioritization, not tentative exploration. While China advances in AI and 5G are met with strong Western pushback, including export controls and network bans, its parallel drive in blockchain infrastructure has yet to provoke a similar response, which could help Beijing set the de facto rules before other countries fully engage. This ambition is also backed by sheer volume. Chinese entities dominate global blockchain innovation, filing over 90% of all blockchain-related patents in 2023. Man, this is just, it's a heavy, it's a heavy article to read, folks, especially as a guy that's at the front lines and fighting this nonstop every week for the last half a decade plus. And I won't keep going on too much, but I do want to touch on the BSN, and then I'll tie it into what's going on more specific to Constellation. Central to China's global blockchain ambitions is the state-backed blockchain-based service network. Launched in 2020, this initiative provides a standardized, low-cost platform for deploying blockchain applications globally, effectively serving as a digital belt and road. It is led by the private firm Red Date Technology, backed by a powerful state-affiliated entities like the State Information Center, China Mobile, and China UnionPay, and explicitly designed for worldwide reach. The network is already expansive. Over 120 public city nodes, which function as data centers, providing access to the BSN platform, operate across China, while the international version of BSN Spartan is expanding into the Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia. By early 2025, this global expansion has already established BSN nodes in over 20 countries, designed to provide the foundation for blockchain-based smart cities, trade ecosystems, and digital identity wallet systems. What makes the BSM especially significant is not just the scale, but its stated ambition. Its leaders describe it as generational infrastructure. He Yifan, hopefully I'm saying that right, the CEO of Red Date Technology, predicts that within decades, all information systems will rely on blockchain transmission. Tan Min, the project secretary general, described the goal more explicitly: building an internet backbone where China controls the right to internet access. Crucially, the BSN embodies China's diversion approach from Western permissionless ideals like decentralization and anonymity. It exports blockchain with Chinese characteristics, a permission system with known validators and state-aligned governance that enforces strict controls. These include mandatory real identity registration, adherence to the state content and security standards, and technical powers from transaction rollback or shutdown. Such state-enabling features fundamentally contradict Western blockchain values like immutability and censorship resistance, reflecting China's strategy of harnessing the technology's advantages while embedding centralized control. Now, I'm not going to keep going because there's some really, really amazing stuff here, but I am going to reread this first piece here that policy debates often circle around investor protections, regulatory surf wars, and headlines about meme coins and high-profile collapses in America. That's what we're focused on. Meanwhile, there's this coordinated full-court press happening over in China that is around the blockchain service network. And alas, as I've been talking to the government for the last 6.5 years, This is one of the big slides that I constantly am highlighting, and even the text in red down below is now 5.5 years behind, so I can add another 18 months to that metric. But it says exactly what we read in that article, that in 2020 they launched this thing, and it's focused on a common infrastructure for the deployment and operation of blockchain applications globally. Now, folks, we may have created the internet here in America, but the blockchain movement is a new internet. It is going to supersede the existing internet. I'm not saying the existing internet's going to go away, but we're going to rely on it less and less as we rely more on blockchain solutions. And this is not just China. Russia, if I could do a whole thing on Russia as well. And I think the big takeaway here is that we are drastically behind. In 5.5 years in the tech world, especially in the modern age, is 10 lifetimes, right? What we're seeing with AI and all these other things, I mean, things can change on the landscape in 1 week. So for us to effectively try to catch up to this, I mean, this is a big issue here, right? And these are like the types of slides that I'm constantly trying to get the buy-in from these generals and these three-letter agencies, because a lot of these people, even though they're in major roles of CTO or CIO functions on behalf of the American taxpayers and the defense sector, they don't really know what blockchain is. So I'm constantly doing not only a lot of education, but then we have to prove it. Meanwhile, we are in the slow lane getting passed up by our adversaries in real time. And yes, there has been investments that we've seen from major institutions when it comes to quote unquote blockchain efforts, but they're all finance based. They're all stuff that has to do with digital assets. Again, I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I fully believe in digital assets, but if that's all we see blockchain powering and we're not thinking about all the other mission critical sensitive data that we need to put on a blockchain to protect our country, our state, local governments, our first responders, I mean, what the heck are we doing, right? Like, it's painful when I get in front of these folks and I'm like, let me guess, you can't get into China's stuff, but they have no problem getting into ours. Guys, there's a solution for this. And so I do get frustrated when I get, blowback from the community. Why isn't this moving faster? We're up against something much larger than just the adaptation of a net new technology. What we're up against is something that is really a change management, a discipline change in a world that has been a country that has largely been running in the gray area for a long time. And we're seeing it with what's happening with the Doge initiatives here, right? I'm not necessarily on board with everything that's going on with our country right now and how it's going about, but it is at a point where when we founded this country, we had 4 agencies. Now we have over 400. The amount of waste that I've seen just in my role being a contractor with clearance working with the government has been appalling. And so it makes sense why they're uncovering this stuff and they're saying, oh my God, we actually are spending $6,000 on a toilet seat. And that's fine, right? That's just good. But it's a paradox because we're reducing trust because we're like, see, the government has been misspending money through NGOs and other things that we need to get ahead of. But it's also increasing trust because we're like, at least they're telling us and we have visibility. So there's this paradox going on. But I will say this. There's a couple of things here that I want to point out. One is that I don't believe in a social credit system or totalitarianism on behalf of a technology. I don't believe in what China is doing with applying this technology to a social credit system. You jaywalk, you no longer can travel because your social credit score went down. I don't like that surveillance state, and I don't want our technology to employ that in America. I just don't think that's the right thing. That said, it doesn't mean that we should be able to write checks or lose or miss audits on behalf of major institutions that then get more money. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you miss your audit, if you don't hit what your marks are as far as your impact and your ROI, then why do you get more money? That's like the worst run business in the world, right? And so there's a way that we can tighten the bolts that will not only benefit the taxpayers, but also just make for a better government altogether and a safer society, as we're seeing what's happening with China while we're over here arguing about Luna crashes and why staking programs are not regulated. Don't get me wrong, stuff is important, but we're missing the core focus here. The other thing I want to mention is that there's this massive gap in trust, right? So I've had these conversations recently, and this is something that folks are probably going to soft circle in this entire thing while Diggles is talking about, adversarial, tech wars. is that we have made more progress with tier 1 exchanges in the last 3 months than we have in the last 3 years. We're finally being seen, and I could sit here and just go off of why we haven't been seen for so long, which is frustrating, but that doesn't matter. What matters is we are being seen largely through relationships, largely through our partners like the Digital Chamber, but what makes us different is we show up to the table with tons of value. We were a first mover in DPIN. We were the first L0. We have this incredible ecosystem of tools and federal impact, enterprise impact, academia impact, and we bring net new deals to these tier 1 exchanges, engagements, and it's awesome. So that's going really well. But one of the things that's ringing true with them right now, why is it working now when it didn't work 6 months ago? Well, there's a big divide that's happening in our world right now between the legacy and Web3, and the divide is trust. That trust is the gap in the middle, and Constellation is seen as a trusted ecosystem. We have the ears of the enterprise. We have the ears of the federal folks. They're looking for digital asset playbooks, best practices. We need a tier 1 gorilla in the room to help us with realizing real-world assets. What are the right strategies around using a stable coin that's additive to TradFi? All these things that are extremely important to the crypto and digital asset world, but behind the scenes we're showing them, hey, we're actually competing with China when it comes to technology. And this is the important thing, is that we're here for the long run. We have proven ourselves and been validated. And so therefore, when I get on the phone now and start talking about digital evidence, I'm able to get the hearts and minds and close a Fortune 500 company in a matter of 15 minutes. They don't care about blockchain. What they care about the value that it adds to their existing data workflows. And they're like, yep, we want that. How can we work with you? How fast can we get that into our workflows? So for those that don't know, digital evidence is one of those things that was born from the Iron Spire effort. So I've been working on Iron Spider now for over 6 years, and we're going to continue that program, secure peer-to-peer interoperable data resilience with the federal governments and with state and local officials. But we decided to turn this into a commercial product called Digital Evidence. And this is just sort of a crude architectural diagram. It's rather reductive in many ways, but it gets to the point very quickly. Our ability to take on complex dynamic data sets from multiple sources is next to none. And our ability to sign on those sources at scale from a bulk data perspective, next to none. Very proud of this. But to simplify it, we've got all these data sources coming from the left. You have some sort of a system or an application, some form of infrastructure that it feeds into. That's where we sign on it. That data is then sent to the cloud. Signed data is sent to our network, and then it's made available as a data analytics offering in any type of your business intelligence workflows. And it produces what we call the smart check mark, which allows somebody a quick eye view to know that it's good. But if they want to click on it, which is the smart piece, they can open it up and they can see the real-time forensic proof from the Block Explorer ported through, showing data that's meaningful to those individuals on a blockchain. And we've done this effectively, and we're working on a really amazing go-to-market with Panasonic around first responders data. So this diagram kind of gives you the same flow, but it shows how we work with the Tough Book, which is in all these cabins of fire trucks, ambulance, police vehicles. Somebody removes a shotgun. That sensor is read in real time at the cabin, fed into the Panasonic Tough Book. We sign on it automatically. That data is now on chain, and we have provable guarantees, liability assurance showing that is exactly what happened on the blockchain. So this is extremely important to just kind of bring this all together, that like, look, the technology today exists, the time is now, and there are entry points happening all over the place when it comes to federal and in the enterprise, but it's just not happening fast enough, and it's super frustrating. But this is the year it happens, right? And I see a divide where when you look at the federal government, they're going to start to require this as a standard. I've been saying this for years, since we started this company. There's going to be a point where if you don't have the check mark, they don't consume the data. That's going to be a requirement. We're not going to work with our porous environment of tens of thousands of contractors to connect to our very sensitive infrastructure if they're not signing and joining a blockchain to show the transparency of who's working on what. right? We look at the signal snafu that took place in Washington a few weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago at this point. Had they had a signature requirement for people to join that application channel, they would not have allowed somebody in that wasn't supposed to be in there. But let's be honest, they shouldn't have been using that application in the first place. But the point is if we had these workflows as a strategic, or I'd say more of a standard compliance effort, it changes the landscape. I see that happening with federal. Commercial is largely going to see this as a competitive advantage. They're going to say, oh, you're using our competitor? Is there stuff on a blockchain? Do they have the smart check mark validating that? No. Oh, well, then you can't trust it. No, we've got all these security solutions that we use, like SSL and all these different zero trust solutions that bolt on to our centralized infrastructure. Look, doesn't matter if you're Okta, doesn't matter if you're WhatsApp. All of them have these privacy stuff on their website, and I hate to knock those too, but you just got caught up in my brain. They say that they're private. All you have to do is go Okta hack, WhatsApp hack, and you'll see a news article that's happened, I guarantee you, in probably the last year, where they leaked records. So no, everybody's saying that they're private and secure, but they're not following up on it. And furthermore, once something has been proven that it isn't secure, the American people that, we don't get anything out of it, right? Look at Apple. They just got their hand slapped for allowing Siri to listen in on your conversations for like 10 years. Yet you go out in the city and you see all these posters that are like, privacy is our #1 concern. You knowingly did this, and you settled in court for $95 million, and now you owe like all of your iPhone people like $20. Yeah, that's really going to make me feel good about listening to me for 10 years is $20. So there's certainly something happening here where folks are allergic to this technology, even though it would save them a lot of time and litigation and headaches. Unfortunately, we live in a country that has been living in the gray and gotten really comfortable with it for far too long, where that mandate by China, they're absolutely not going to allow it. So the other thing I want to bring up is what we've seen since Trump has taken office, really from back in November to today. I don't need to go too deep on this because we've already sort of proven some of this stuff when we show the pictures of what we're doing on the Hill. Policies are changing, Congress is changing, all of this stuff is sort of happening in real time because this new administration is saying this is important. I would say, even though it's not totally unfortunate, it still is an entry point. It's largely around digital assets. A lot of folks are still sleeping on blockchain. They still think that, oh, my blockchain's gonna help me with Liberty Financial or whatever. I don't care what network it's on. It's all about the money. It's a step in the right direction, but we need to start thinking about how this is something that is enforced if you're going to work with the government. Much like they just rolled out the Real ID, confusing a lot of people, right? But that is an upgrade in identification technology that is going to be for the betterment of society that they're requiring, or you don't fly on a plane. We should require you to put all of your data, your contract, your identity on a blockchain when working with the federal government at the bare minimum. And so we're seeing this change in energy happen within the Trump administration. Doge has been half good, I would say, and half bad for us. We have a lot of initiatives that have lost funding because that money has been completely cut. And so we've had some projects we're in the middle of that have just lost funding. Other ones have come to us in the Pentagon saying, wow, you guys actually have something here. What if we applied this to things like use cases like bulk fuel tracking and other really amazing pockets that we could affect in a meaningful way? So we're being pulled in some capacities and being pulled out, pushed out of others, just due to the nature of what Doge represents. And so I'm very hopeful that this is the year that we see some of that activity. But it doesn't mean that Benjamin Diggles and Constellation is going to slow down and sit on our hands and wait. We have to keep moving. And that's why I love partners like Panasonic. Gosh, I want to name so many other logos, but I can't right now because they're not out. But I love these folks that are coming to us and saying, yeah, we'll do this right now. And in fact, we're also interested in learning more about digital assets to butt up against our traditional finance and figure out a way that it could be additive. And this is why I'm able to pull in these tier 1 exchanges and say, hey, let's get weird. Let's get right. Let's do the right thing on behalf of this movement. Because right now, I'm telling you point blank, as a guy that talks to Fortune 500 companies all the time, they don't trust Web3 because everything we see in the news is shenanigans. Fartcoin just got pulled for $2 billion. People got their asses handed to them. It's like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, this is a strategic technology for the future? It is. It just needs to be explained a lot better. And so I know I came into this hot. I almost probably seem a little bit manic because it shows you where my energy is in on this. But I really wanted to deliver this message today just about how Constellation is in one of the best positions we've ever been. And it's been a long road. I mean, we had a stagnant market cap for a really long time, and people reaching out to me, you got to do something. I'm like, nobody's trying harder than me. But it's not about that, right? We may not have the biggest market cap out there, but we have the trust of the legacy. Therefore, we have what I think is the ball and the power play for the next wave of adoption and growth in an industry that right now continues to be laden with shenanigans, and it's driving me somewhat nuts. So that's one thing, but I will leave you on this. This is probably the statement that I want everybody to understand that is so near and dear to my heart, is that we're not building technology that's going to change the world. We're building technology that is meeting a changing world. We wouldn't need blockchain if the central internet wasn't lackluster, if it was secure, if applications were doing what they're supposed to, if companies were honest and not doing things like allowing Siri to listen to you for 10 years and saying, oh, we're sorry, before this gets worse, we're going to pay $95 million to make it go away. That's lame, man, and I'm over it, right? I think all of us are, where corruption and data leaks and these spams, all this crap has become common stance that you really can't even trust anything you see on a computer anymore. And I think that's where we're going to get as a society, is we're going to get into a moment where people are going to be like, if I don't see that check mark and I'm not able to interact with it, I don't trust it. And I really implore most of you to look at it that way. If you see it on a screen, don't trust it until you've backed into validation. Unfortunately, we as humans are gullible enough to believe what we see first, and if we have the energy or effort to take the time to see if it's even real or fact check it, we can, but most people don't. This is why headline gotcha journalism works so much. They can just say something with all the details in the article, and people will believe the headline before even reading what the context is over that headline. So while I know this seemed like a little bit of a State of the Union, like, oh my God, like China's eating our lunch, I want folks to get excited that we are in a very interesting pocket as a company. And I don't believe there's one blockchain to rule them all. I'm really, really encouraging others to step up and get involved in the government, because there's such a big pie. And this is one thing I want to say to the community when they see a competitor like, oh, did you know these guys are doing this on chain and they're doing this? Great, let's applaud them. How can we support them? You know, this is such a big industry. I'm not like, oh man, we need to worry about competition. The pie is huge right now. So I'll leave you with that. We are not building technology that's changing the world. We're building technology that's meeting a changing world. And never has there been more of a demand for provable guarantees and digital evidence on communications data to restore trust in a time where trust has never been so low. So that's all I got for you. For those that were able to listen to this rant for 30 minutes, I salute you. God bless you. Thanks for your support and everybody that believes in what I'm doing here. But this isn't just about me. This is about all of us. So Godspeed, and I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on. And thanks for listening. Have a great day.